So, Ginger,
Yeah?
you know how we wanted to start a podcast, but we were having trouble coming up with a topic?
Yeah?
Okay, so here's my pitch. The topic of the podcast is us trying to come up with the topic for the podcast.
What, like we pitch each other podcast ideas and that's the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could call it, What Should Our Podcast Be About?
Miles, that's really stupid. Let's do it.
What should this song be about? I'm trying to figure it out. What should this song be about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've had a moment of doubt. What should this song be about? Welcome to What Should Our Podcast Be About? The podcast where we try to figure out what this podcast that you're listening to right now should be about. I'm Miles Grover.
And I'm Ginger Barham.
Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Miles.
I have an update.
Okay.
From a few weeks ago, we were talking about, we did Roll Against the Machine. We did
Roll Against the Machine, yes.
where we had ChatGPT do a
D&D.
D&D campaign,
It was
DM
not
for
good.
us.
It was not
It
good.
was not particularly good. And do you remember the name of the wizard that we encountered in that?
I don't.
It was Halaster Blackcloak.
Halaster Blackcloak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was like, he let us take all his treasure, basically.
Yeah,
And
and he
just-
was very permissive and not much of a final boss.
No, he really wasn't. And we also talked about how it seemed like kind of a lame name for a wizard. It's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right.
It's fine. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Especially Black Cloak is just kind of like whatever. Lots of people's cloaks are black, man.
Yeah.
Can you really have that? Everybody's cloak is black. Basically, like, black is the main color
It's
for
the
cloaks.
default cloak.
Yeah. Anyway, the update is that I discovered that Halaster Blackcloak was not invented by ChatGPT, as I had assumed. It was just...
Halaster Blackcloak already exists.
Yes, Halaster Blackcloak is a character from from Faerun, from the D&D, one of the D&D universes. He's apparently basically the second most powerful wizard in the world.
It didn't seem like it.
No, he's more powerful than Elminster, who's probably the third most powerful wizard in the world, according to something I was reading online.
Okay.
Elminster I've heard of. Elminster's a famous wizard, but apparently Halaster Blackcloak is a super evil, insane wizard who lives in the Undermountain, or who created the Undermountain dungeon.
Okay.
Which is what ChatGPT said, I guess, basically. But I had just guessed it was making something up. But no, it was just literally stealing from some module or something, I guess. I mean, as far as the name and stuff.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because that's kind of what ChatGPT
That's
does.
basically what it does, yeah.
It's not creative.
Yeah. But if it were actually Halaster Blackcloak, he would have murdered our party immediately because he's crazy and evil. So just wanted to put that out there for all you D&D nerds in case you were mad about it for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were mad about it, I guess I'm just impressed that you got that far into that episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I don't actually think anybody was mad about it, but I was just reading something and somebody was talking about Halaster Blackcloak and I was like, wait, what? I had like a record scratch moment.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So that's the update.
Okay. Even less impressed with ChatGPT now.
Right. A little bit less impressed than usual.
I wasn't that impressed as it was.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have ideas this week that we want to talk
We
about?
do. You want to go first?
I can go first. So I have a note here. Podcast for ladies.
Okay. Like Ladies Night the podcast?
Well, I was looking at our stats.
Or do you just want to be able to say ladies?
Ladies. Do ladies like it when you do that? Because I feel like maybe not.
I mean, if you do it as a joke.
Yeah.
If you're making fun of guys that say ladies,
Sure.
then we find it acceptable.
Right, sure. I was just looking at our podcast, like audience stats, and like most of our listeners are female. So I thought, well, we should target our podcast for ladies.
Right.
So like, it's like how you sell a razor and it's pink and now it's for ladies.
Right.
So I don't know what we would do for that. I didn't have more idea than just we should target our podcast for ladies and figure out whatever that could mean. Could be kind of a fun exercise of like, what would be a stupid stereotypical thing for ladies?
So you want us to engage in stereotypes?
Yeah, to make fun of them.
Okay. All right. Like, we like talk about Sex in the City.
Right. We talk about like shoes. I guess we talk about Makeup, purses.
Makeup, purses. I mean, I actually like talking about makeup, so I don't really like talking about purses. I don't know much about purses.
Yeah, I don't know much about any of those things. I mean, I guess I have a lot of shoes, but
Yeah,
I don't really
you could
know.
learn something, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if it's stuff you want to learn, though.
I don't particularly. I mean, at the risk of, I guess, somewhat playing into the stereotype, I am not particularly interested in those things as a...
Not even makeup?
Not a lady. I mean, I think makeup looks cool on people, but I don't wear makeup or particularly want to wear makeup.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some people with really cool makeup, and I'm like, that's cool, I like that, but I'm not.
We talk about, like, how to groom your eyebrows.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
Yeah.
I'm going for more, I'm hoping to get more into, like, mad scientist territory of, like, big, bushy, freaky, scary eyebrows.
Big, bushy, freaky, scary eyebrows.
That would be my definition of my eyebrows being on fleek.
Well, you on fleek, so you're doing well for 5 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen a thing from like several years ago or whatever. Or I don't know if there's something more fun there than that, because honestly, like making fun of talking about shoes or whatever, who cares? But like, I don't know, there's something funny to me about like taking something normal and then like doing something stupid to make it for ladies.
Yeah.
Like or stuff like she's a lady pilot, right? Like adding just lady to something to like it's so different for a lady to be a pilot
than a lady doctor
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be fun to kind of examine different stereotypes too.
Yeah.
And like where they come from and if there's a truth to them or not.
Right.
Like what led to this being a stereotype.
Right. And examining like where stereotypes come from in the sense of like I feel obviously like wearing high heels and pink things and carrying a purse is not anything biological, right?
Yeah, it's very much I was going to say, I feel like a lot of the things that are stereotypically things that women are into are things that society has kind of told them to be into and then makes fun of them for being into.
Right, for sure, yeah.
Because society tells you as a woman that, or someone who presents as a woman, that you need to like go above and beyond with your appearance.
Yeah. All kinds of stuff like that. Appearance is very, very focused on in like a male gaze kind of way, for sure.
Yeah.
And
our fashion is commented on more.
Fashion, your body, right? Whether you have tattoos is not ladylike, or whether you how you do your hair or how you present yourself, or if you talk too loud in meetings or whatever stupid crap.
Yeah, it's constantly like held up for like men are going to find this thing unattractive. Right. Don't pierce your septum. Men think that's gross. Like,
which, by the way, I know it doesn't really matter, but I absolutely disagree with that. Yeah. I think septum.
I'm saying that one because I've seen that one.
Yeah, no, I know it's it is a thing, but like for me, I actually find that like I immediately like someone more. I'm predisposed to like someone if they have a septum piercing, which is, I don't know, kind of weird.
It's good to know, because I was thinking about getting my septum pierced.
I've thought
about it for a couple of years.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting mine pierced, and then I kind of chickened out. But
we could be septum buddies.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would like it or not, but it could be cool. I don't have anything pierced.
Yeah, I've had my labret and my tongue in the past.
Yeah.
I don't have the jewelry anymore.
And your ears, obviously.
My ears, obviously, yeah. But yeah, I'd like to get my septum pierced.
Yeah. Anyway, so podcast for ladies, I don't know what it means. If it means what we just talked about, we could, or something else, we could explore that. That's the idea. Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Do you have an idea you would like to talk about?
Yes. All right. Should I start with the more stupid one or the less stupid one?
Let your spirit guide you. I don't know.
All right. So what about a bird watching podcast?
Okay.
Where we just look out the window and talk about birds that we see.
Okay, so we're not even going out into the woods or something. We're literally just looking out the window and hoping we see a bird.
We have a lot of windows in our house.
We have windows. I look out the window of my home office, and there are robins out there pretty regularly. Squirrels, if that's a kind of bird.
Squirrely birds.
A lot of leaves.
We could go to the park, I suppose. We could go to different parks.
Yeah. I mean, it
depends on how much work we want to put into our bird watching podcast.
Right, which is probably not very much.
Yeah.
Would we would we talk about the birds? Like, would we take the mic with us or try to have a mic in the field, or would we just come back from a field trip and talk about what birds we saw?
No, I think it would be better if we do it like while we're walking around.
Better in what sense?
In that it will be more chaotic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you hear that? Because you want to be able to hear the noises.
Sure. Yeah,
We could gamify it a little bit. Listeners could try and like identify out the because we don't know anything about birds.
Right. I know a little bit about birds.
But we don't know much about birds.
I know enough about birds. I know more than the average person about birds, I think, but not enough to impress anyone who actually knows about birds, probably.
You're not going to be like, oh, that's a yellow-throated warbler I hear.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know if that's a real bird.
I think it is, actually.
Okay. Well, see, I know a ton about birds.
Yeah. I actually have a bird app that has all the birds of North America that you can, like, put in some stuff and be like, oh, I think it's a cormorant or whatever. And I also have a paper field guide to birds, I think, somewhere around the house. I'm not sure where it is, but...
I know you have one that I gave you.
Yeah, that might be the one
I found in the free pile.
I also have a book.
Because you told me you had a bird app, and so then I found this bird book, and I was like, oh, maybe Miles would appreciate this bird book.
Yeah, it might be a Northwest birds book, though.
Yeah.
And we're in the Northeast now.
Got it in the free pile in Seattle.
But I did spend the money on the bird app, which I almost never use, to make sure it was the full North American birds.
I feel like you used it once at Central Park. Maybe.
Yeah, I used it.
Identify a weird bird we saw.
You and I have been together for like 7-ish years almost at this point. Almost 7 years. And I think I've used it since we met 2, maybe 3 times. So definitely a good investment of $20 for the app. But regardless, I do have the app, so I could sort of...
So you've paid almost $7 a use.
Well,
so I'm just thinking, like, you see a bird and you're like... Would I pay $7 to identify that bird?
Well, I've used it more times than that total because I've had the app since like very early in there even being apps for iPhone. I don't know, 2011-ish maybe, or whenever that was. So I've had it for a good while.
So you've used it maybe 4 or 5 times?
I've probably used it upwards of 9 or 10 times maybe.
Okay, so like $2 a bird.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
That's not too
bad. Not that bad, I guess. Anyway, yeah. Well, I was thinking it would be funnier or lamer and funnier to just come back and record after being out in the field looking at birds.
So you want to make it even less interesting.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, we saw this one bird. It was like kind of brown, but kind of had spots, and some of the spots were kind of like gray. Yeah.
Anyway, get at us if you know what this bird is.
Yeah.
You don't have like the call or anything like. Anything that would help you.
No.
And you're relying on our like shitty memory of seeing this bird.
Right. That's the funny part to me of like the stupidest possible bird watching podcast.
And it would be called Bird is the Word.
Bird is the Word. I was actually thinking about a bird podcast as well, and I was thinking, what if we called it Hornithology because we horny for these birds?
That's really dumb.
Oh, less dumb than Bird is the Word.
What if we called it Tweet Tweet, motherfucker?
Okay.
Yeah.
We could consider that.
I think that's better than Bird is the Word. I can't say it.
Hornithology?
It's very close to like horticulture, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost sounds like just a different thing.
Yeah.
Than just horny plus ornithology.
Hornithology is the study of rhinos.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so that's that idea.
Okay. Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know how we expand on it as part of an episode, but
yeah, I mean, we could go look out the window and see if we see any birds.
Yeah.
And get a real
very compelling audio.
Well, right. It would give us a good taste of what it would be like.
Give our audience a good taste.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, what else you got?
Another thing I was thinking about is how many successful podcasts are started by people who are already famous.
Okay.
As, actors or comedians or influencers or whatever.
Yeah, which is unfair to us little people.
Well, so how about we even the playing field by just pretending that we're famous also already.
Is that how that works? Is that how you even the playing field?
Maybe.
Okay.
So the idea is just, and I obviously don't have a name for the podcast, but
we just pretend like we're influencers.
But we act like we were in movies or we're like we would pick some kind of thing that we're famous for.
Okay.
And then just act like we are famous for that, and then try to play it off like there's lots of people where you discover them and they're famous and you just didn't know about them, right? So,
right.
So like we're hoping that the listeners
they just won't
will just
know.
be like, I guess I never heard of this person, but I guess they're famous.
Okay,
right?
That's pretty good.
Especially if we were like YouTube famous or something, right? Because like there's so many YouTubers that I hear about at some point, and they've got like 5 billion views or something, and I've never heard of them before.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's pretty easy to be a sort of hugely famous, but only in a niche.
Right.
In certain like industries or whatever.
Right. Like I'm not into Minecraft, so there's a ton of like huge Minecraft YouTubers.
Yeah. Literally millions or billions of views.
That I'm like, wow, this person makes so much money, and I have no idea who they are.
Or like we're discovering different kids YouTubers, like Miss Rachel has millions and millions of views. We've never heard of her before.
Well, yeah.
A few months ago or whatever, right?
You wouldn't unless you have a baby.
Well, right, exactly. So I'm just saying there's plenty of niches like that.
Niches?
There's plenty of Friedrich Nietzsche.
I said it niches. Niches get stitches.
Niches. No, well, niche. Okay, we don't need to talk about niche versus niche. But anyway, there's plenty of like...
Niches get stitches.
There's plenty of niches or whatever that people can be in that you just aren't in that are still huge, right? So I don't know what we would... Maybe if we decided we wanted to talk about this more, we could figure out what our personas would be and how we would... We still also have to figure out what our actual podcast is, I guess. But
yeah,
a lot of times those podcasts seem like they're just like 3 famous guys who are in sitcoms that they just talk, and they have guests who are also famous people on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of like along the lines of like it's kind of bringing like Eyes on Appleville back for me. Mm-hmm. It's like a TV show that doesn't exist.
Right.
I could pretend I was an actress on some famous TV show.
Yeah. Or
I could make up the TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta, right? Because otherwise somebody could fact check you pretty easily.
Well, but people could fact check you if you make up a show, if nothing comes up when you Google it. But you could also just say that you were on, All My Children or Days of Our Lives or one of those like soap operas that's been running for like 50 years or whatever. And like... Because a ton of actors you know about were on those for a little while at some point. Right. So, and obviously people who are big fans of those might not fall for it, but I feel like most people would be willing to believe that some random person they've never heard of was on a soap opera at some point. Right.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't know the vast majority of people who are on any of those shows, right?
Yeah, okay. No, but that could be kind of fun.
I guess a downside is that people listen to those podcasts because they already know the famous person.
Right.
So just making people think that you're famous might work as a retention technique more than a getting new listeners technique, I guess.
Right.
But I don't know.
Also, I feel like people who are famous who have podcasts, they'll find those because they're specifically looking for that person.
Right, they search for that person or they whatever, yeah.
No one's searching for us.
Right. What if we change our names to Jason Bateman and Will Arnett? Or something like that.
Which one am I?
Your choice. Which one would you rather be?
I mean, Jason Bateman, obviously. Okay.
Oh, is that obvious? They're both pretty great, I feel
they are both pretty great, but I'm more of a Jason Bateman fan.
Another thing we could talk about is if you were going to steal the name of a famous person to be on a podcast,
whose name would you steal?
Who would be your ideal person to steal, to pretend not to be, but to just steal their name so people would think you were that person?
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it would work best to choose a name that's not too uncommon.
Not too uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could be like Tom Hanks. right? Like, people probably just search for Tom Hanks sometimes when they're looking for podcasts.
Yeah, or you could just like pick one that's, you know, kind of close to a famous person. Close enough that somebody might accidentally search for it.
Okay.
Like I'm Meg Bryan.
Meg Bryan. Or
Bryan.
Right. Or like, or just Tom Hank.
Tom Hank, yeah.
Or Thomas Hank or something. or Tom Manx or something.
So we would still have to figure out what our podcast is about, but we would go from there.
And we would have to have guests on who also have almost a real famous person's name.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty good.
That could be fun.
Yeah, that could be fun.
All right.
Do you want another one from me?
Do you have another idea?
Yeah, so I've got one more. Working title, Ask the Ex-Burts.
Okay, Ask the Ex-Burts.
Ask the Ex-Burts. And it is a podcast where people send in questions, very specific advice in like areas that you'd have to have a lot of knowledge to answer. And we pretend to have the knowledge to answer those questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So like, I don't know, something about like woodworking or how to pick out a good hammer. I don't know. Stuff. I'm trying to think of things.
I'm a hammer expert.
Yeah, I'm a hammer expert. And every week we're just like experts in different things.
Okay. Interesting. So we would have to that could be fun. I feel like there's a certain amount of like knowledge of things that you have to even speak in a way that is like remotely believable of the thing, right? Like if you then know the names of some of the different like joints that you do in woodworking, like a miter joint and there's one that looks like a little...
Well, that's why Google exists, right?
Yeah, we would probably need to do a little research at least on the thing we're pretending to be knowledgeable about.
But that's the kind of research you can do on the fly.
Yeah, but we would also, the podcast would also have to be entertaining while being very wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like we would have to make up funny answers.
Yeah.
And would those answers only be funny to people who actually did know about that thing?
I mean, probably not, because we're probably going to be really wrong, like, in a way that's obvious to most people.
Yeah.
That was my thought, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we would try to be really wrong.
Yeah.
And probably succeed, I guess.
Yeah, that could be kind of fun. Like, people could call us out when we accidentally stumble into something that's correct.
Yeah, we could have corrections where we're like, we accidentally said a correct thing last week.
Yeah. So the people could learn a little something, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have... what kind of questions would we be getting, though? Like, if we were going to talk about this more, what would we talk about? Should we talk about woodworking? I mean, like...
Yeah, what is the best type of lathe for smaller details, more intricate woodworking?
The best kind of lathe.
See, part of it is I have to come up with a question that sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
Something. Yeah. The best kind of lathe is obviously for that work. I mean, the best overall lathe I would say is the Lathe Master 5000. That's a good general purpose lathe. But for the small details, you want...
A Blindel-Hoffler.
A Blindel-Hoffler, definitely. Yeah. You want one of their LCF line, probably, is those ones are best for small details.
Get the one with the silver handle.
Yeah. There's also a question of...
I've heard bad things about the ones with the orange handles.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's also the question of not just the lathe itself, but your cutting tools that you use on the lathe.
Oh, the type of wood that you're using.
Right. True.
Could make a difference in whether you go with the Blindel-Hoffler or the
Lathe
Master.
Yeah. I mean, the 5000 line of the Lathe Master can handle most types of wood pretty well, although it doesn't do great with pine, I found. But yeah, this is very dumb because we have no idea, because we could be saying things that are plausibly possible.
Maybe there is a Lathe Master 5000.
I mean, there probably isn't a Lathe Master 5000 or a Blindel-Hoffler, but like, I don't know.
Hey,
maybe...
I'm pretty proud of Blindel-Hoffler. This might just be an excuse for me to come up with silly names.
Yeah, I mean, that particular question was basically come up with a couple of dumb names for things. How about like an actual thing I've Googled before? What's the best way to glue together long pieces of wood, long assemblies of wood, right? Because it's not too hard to get a clamp around a couple of pieces of wood if they're, a few inches thick or whatever. But if you want to put together like several long pieces of wood in a line, what's the best way to do that?
Are we talking like how you clamp them together at the ends or on top?
Like when you, at the ends, I guess, because when you clamp something together, you want the pressure to be in the direction that the glue
I see.
is gluing,
So you're
right?
gluing them end to end.
Right.
And you need to be able to clamp them.
And my clamps maybe can clamp 5-6 inches or something, but can't clamp a long thing.
Yeah. So you get 2 cinder blocks.
Okay.
And you push them together.
Okay. So you just put cinder blocks on the end and push them together, and that'll hold it.
Yep.
That actually might work.
You
had something heavy
bullshit
like that.
my way into a solution.
That could maybe work, actually. I was going to say maybe some kind of complicated pulley system.
Yeah.
You could
I was
set
trying to think of a silly answer, but it was easier to think of a practical answer. So maybe this is not a good podcast.
Maybe this wouldn't go. Maybe it would just be kind of boring.
Maybe I'm not good enough at being, neither of us are good enough at being ridiculous.
We're both just too competent, I think.
Yeah.
We're just so competent. That's the problem.
Well, I think we're also both pretty ridiculous, so it seems like we should be good at this.
Right. I was being ironic when I said we were too competent.
Yeah. But I realized that I said that we were not ridiculous enough for this podcast, and I feel like that's not usually a problem for us.
Yeah, but to be ridiculous in a fun way can sometimes be difficult, and it can be easy to fall back on boring practical stuff, I guess.
You rent 2 elephants, and you put some peanuts in the middle.
Okay. And you've got ropes tied to the elephants.
I've got ropes tied to the elephants. Peanuts just out of the elephant's reach. So these have to be really long boards. They gotta be
or small elephants.
Or very small elephants. They have to have very short trunks.
Right.
Because otherwise they'll be able to reach the
Okay,
peanuts.
I can think of a way around the issue of the boards having to be really long, which is you put the peanuts outside the boards, okay, and then you have to cross the elephant, so the elephant on the right is trying to get the peanuts on the left, the elephant on the left is trying to get the peanuts on the right, and I guess doesn't know that there's peanuts behind them that they could get.
You want to make sure that you're zoned for elephants.
Right, of course. And have room for them in your workspace.
Right.
Even if they're fairly small.
If you don't have room for your elephants in your workspace, you should think about expanding your workspace.
Right. I mean, in a pinch, you might be able to get a donkey to work for this.
Yeah.
Or a pair of donkeys, obviously. Yeah. Or a big dog, maybe a couple of big dogs.
Yeah. Like a couple of Weimaraners or something.
Maybe. Weimaraners?
Weimaraners? How do you say it?
I don't know.
I'm not a dog expert.
No.
I'm a woodworking expert.
Next week will be dog experts.
Next week will be dog experts.
But this week we're not.
Actually, I don't know if we should be dog experts, because if people ask for like health advice on their dogs,
it might be dangerous
to give bad advice for.
I mean, it would also be dangerous to give bad woodworking advice. People could, cut their hand off or something.
Yeah, I think this podcast would probably have to come with a disclaimer at the beginning. Please don't take any of the advice that we are offering.
It'll kind of undermine our sort of joke premise. I was also thinking we might need a title more unique than Ask the Experts, or at least somehow it
yeah, I mean, I said that was the working title.
Yeah, but it would need to somehow indicate that we're not really experts. I was thinking maybe we're
Ask the Philistines.
I was gonna say Ex-Burts, like EX-BURTS, like we used to be named Bert or something. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, but it sounds like Ex-Burts.
Ask the Ex-Birds.
Ex-Birds. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really make any sense. No. I
mean, it makes about as much sense as Ex-Burts.
But it doesn't sound as much like the word, so...
That's true.
Okay, so I think we've got that idea talked about a bit.
Do you have any more ideas, or should we go through what we've talked about so far?
I have one more I could talk about. All right, you ready for the pitch for this one?
Yep.
You've heard of Weird Al Yankovic.
Okay.
Get ready for Stupid Al Yankovic, who just makes really stupid song parodies.
Okay, this is really kind of crazy because I had a similar idea and I threw it out. I was like, no, that's nothing. So
well, it might be nothing. It might be nothing. and I don't know if Stupid Al Yankovic would actually work as a podcast title, but I was just thinking about it because I constantly get songs stuck in my head, but then my brain replaces the words with very stupid words. Like I had what's that song called? Only Fools Rush. I Can't Help Falling in Love with You or whatever.
Okay.
But I had like Take My Ham.
Take my whole dang plate. Are we writing these together?
We could probably
each do a line. I think that could be kind of fun.
So I had this is very stupid. This is what I had stuck in my head for a while. Take my ham, take my big league chew, because I can't help farting above your stew.
That is really stupid.
And that's what my brain does all day. Like when you see
all
those,
day?
When you have you ever see those cartoons where it's like a cow standing there and then you see like the cow's like dancing in his thoughts and to some stupid song. That's kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Like
no
cartoon. Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
I believe you though.
Basically, there's like a little cartoon cow in my brain dancing to really stupid versions of songs. So for Stupid Al Yankovic, the podcast, we would be, I guess, coming up with really stupid lyrics to songs that already exist. And I guess we would hope that anyone would like that.
All right. I mean, that could be, I think that this is one of those ideas that I feel like would be fun for us. I don't know if it would be fun for the listeners.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess
But I'm intrigued and kind of want to do it because I think it'll be fun for us. But again, I don't know if it'll be good audio.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the problem is like, it's probably not especially fun to listen to people try to come up with a rhyme. You know, like, okay, what rhymes with hand? Band, canned, dand, sand, gand, land, wet. You know, like, that's nothing. Nobody wants to hear you, like, try to come up with rhymes like that or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it would have to be, like, kind of off cuff, the first thing that's off the top of your head, right?
Right, which would probably make it more stupid because you would just have the stupidest possible, you know, most obvious stupid thing that comes to your mind or whatever.
Yeah.
We could also, another take on this could be like finding parody songs that already exist and like talking about them if they're bad. Like, there are definitely plenty of people who make parody songs besides Weird Al. And most of Weird Al's are pretty good, but like a lot of the other ones are probably dumb. So maybe that could be content.
So parody reviews?
Yeah, like reviewing stupid parody songs.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. There's something about the idea of taking the weird in Weird Al as like the modifier of which Al you're talking about who makes parodies. And there's also a stupid Al that makes parodies, but they're stupid instead of weird.
Yeah.
It's funny to me.
The Al multiverse.
Yeah, like across the Yankoverse.
Would there be like a sexy Al that just does sexy parodies?
Yeah. Or he just does parodies of I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt or whatever.
Just that song,
but different versions of it. I guess
what about a podcast where we invent different multiverses, different universes?
Okay, that's interesting.
That could be kind of
so
fun. Did we talk about that before, though?
Well, we talked about, we kind of did. We talked about worlds where one thing is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right? Across the mustache verse is what we called the episode.
Right. Okay. We did have that idea already.
But it's not quite the same per se. This would be more focused on like things that could have a bunch of, like, one main thing that could have a bunch of variations, right? Like, Weird Al, there's a Weird Al universe, a Too Sexy for My Shirt Al universe, a Stupid Al universe. I like the
across the Yankoverse.
Yankoverse, yeah.
All right, should we talk about the ideas that we've come up with so far?
Yeah, sure.
So what do we got? We've got Ask the Ex-Burts.
Ask the Ex-Burts.
We've got Bird Watching Podcast.
The Bird Watching Podcast. We've got Stupid Al Yankovic.
We've got Pretend to be Famous.
Pretend to be Famous. Podcast for Ladies.
All right.
I think that's everything.
Yeah,
right?
anything piquing your interest this week?
I feel like we could talk more about Podcast for Ladies, maybe. Also, the bird watching one sounds kind of fun to talk about, like, birds in a weird, dumb, boring way, maybe.
Yeah. Is there one that we're leaning more towards? I'm up for talking about either of those.
Do you... the Pretending to be Famous one could be good. I feel like the Ex-Burts one is probably... might be too...
fun in concept?
Yeah, less fun to actually try to do.
Yeah.
The famous one is kind of fun, but I don't feel like we have an actual concept for the podcast or what we would call what we would call it or what it would be about. Although I guess
Let's talk more about ladies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Podcast for ladies?
Podcast for ladies.
Okay, so what would a podcast for ladies be? Like, because there's different ways we could take it, right? We could try to make an actual podcast aimed at women.
No, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that.
Which, yeah, that's pretty boring. But if we make one that's too good at being stereotypically dumb, it might just make people angry. Like, it would have to be clear that there would have to be some hook to it that's a joke that, like, lets us actually talk about, I guess, feminism and, like, feminist points.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of talking about stereotypes and where they come from and why they're a thing and if there's truth to them.
You know, yeah, that's a good point. So thinking about it a little bit more, there's some subreddits that I follow. One of them is Pointlessly Gendered, where they point out where people share stuff that's like, you know, pens for women, right? Where it's like, or like,
for your dainty lady fingers.
Buy a hammer, but it's pink because it's for ladies.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you mentioned a hammer because there was one time that I was looking for a toolkit that just had like basic tools in it. And that's why I have so many pink tools because that's the only one I could find.
Right, yeah.
And it was more expensive than the one that was sold out. That wasn't pink.
One or whatever,
and it was really annoying because I was like, this costs more. And it's not even like I particularly wanted a pink hammer and a pink level or whatever.
Right. It's funny because
pink tape measure.
I'm into pink and I'm kind of happy that we have a pink hammer and stuff.
Yeah. But like,
yeah,
it's silly.
So yeah, we could do a podcast that kind of explores some of that stuff, gender roles and gender.
It'd be interesting to know, like, when did pink start becoming a girl's color? Because it wasn't always.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the early to mid 20th century or so. Because it used to be that it was considered a masculine color. My understanding, anyway, is that it used to be considered a masculine color because it's, you know, close to red and passionate or whatever. Also, like, there are a ton of stereotypes of, like, you know, women being emotional and men being logical. But, like, in the past, there have also been times when men were considered especially emotional and women were cold and logical or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, because both of those stereotypes, even though they're the same thing but flipped, in both cases, it's like a negative for women, right?
Yeah, you know what I also like? I also think there's, something to talk about in terms of, like, being emotional being a bad thing.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, the word emotional has kind of a negative connotation, but when men are considered emotional, it's like, they're passionate or they're...
they're not called emotional.
They're virulent or
they're called passionate or driven.
Or virile, or whatever, even aggressive or whatever. Aggressive has kind of a negative connotation, but it's not, but it's a strong kind of negative, right? Like you're being strong in a bad way. Whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think aggressive, if you're a woman or someone who presents as a woman, is definitely... has more negative connotations than if you're a dude.
Yeah. I was just, totally. And I was just thinking, like, it's interesting because even if you flip some of the stereotypes, they just get reframed in a way that's more positive for men and more negative for women, right? Like, because women being cold and logical, you know, or women being more logical is, I'm saying cold, right? Cold is kind of a negative, right? The
calculating,
frigid, right? Not sexy and stuff, right?
Conniving,
yeah. Whereas, you know, when society considers men to be more logical, it's like, well, because they're so rational and, you know, deliberative and coming up with the best, you know, logic for things, whatever, right? Versus women who just do whatever their emotions say or whatever, right?
Which, by the way, is complete horseshit because women are in charge of a lot more stuff than they're given credit for.
Oh, for sure.
Like, the majority of, like, household things tend to, like, by default fall to women.
Right, no.
To do. And they are things that require planning and logic and keeping track of a lot of different things, juggling a lot of different things. Like, women get shit done.
Yeah.
Women aren't just sitting around crying and eating chocolate.
No, of course. No. Yeah. Probably if you average everyone out across genders and over
Not that
time
there's
and
anything
stuff,
wrong with sitting around crying, eating chocolate. I support that.
Well, crying's usually a sign of something bad, right? So ideally you aren't doing that, but yeah.
No, but I mean, like, crying is good. You
Yeah,
don't
it gets your emotions out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think if you average it out over all people across genders and time and whatever, everybody's probably a similar amount of emotional versus logical on average. But if anybody is more emotional, it might be men, right? Because, like, men are the ones who freak out and murder their partners. Yeah. If they get cheated on or something, right? Or whatever. Like, or maybe men aren't more emotional, but have less control over it and are not expected to be.
Well, as a consequence of not being taught to deal with emotions.
Well, and also not expected to deal with things in a healthy way because that's weak or something.
Right.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit to talk about here. I don't know if it's very fun or funny.
Oh, well, but I mean, like, we don't just have to come up with funny podcast ideas. I actually, like, I mean, it's a topic, obviously, I feel strongly about. Yeah. Because I'm a little bit invested in it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, me too. Yeah. I mean, patriarchy isn't good for men either. I mean, on balance, men benefit from patriarchy more, but it also has a lot of bad effects on men as well.
Yeah. I feel like that is a point that doesn't get made enough and would probably do a lot more towards, like, getting men that are resistant to recognizing that we live in a patriarchal society to actually recognize it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's people who pretend like the wage gap between genders doesn't exist and all kinds of stuff like that, too. Right. And think we have perfect equality or something.
Right. And, like, yeah, you're right. I mean, these things do benefit men in, like, a material sense. But on a, like, emotional level, I think it's detrimental towards men.
Well, and not only that, but I think even in a material sense, you need to look at it from a class lens too, right? Like, there are men at the top who are benefiting from keeping men and women under control in a certain way. Right. And I don't mean that in the sense of, like, there's some guy out there scheming about, men can't cry. We have to push that out in the media to make so men don't feel like they can cry. Like, there isn't a guy out there doing this or whatever, but there's a collective set of behavior that has that perpetuates itself.
That society has agreed upon.
Yeah, well, not even, even agreed upon sounds too conscious, right? It's more like things end up working in a certain way that benefits certain people, and so they keep happening because those people want to keep benefiting from them. Right. Even if they're not really conscious of what they're doing, right? It's all systemic stuff. Right. That is ultimately individuals doing stuff, but it's like
blaming individuals does really nothing to solve a systemic problem.
Getting individuals to change doesn't fix it. You need to fix it at a bigger level than that.
Right. Which is what I just said. Which I'm going to point out is a thing that that's something we could talk about is women saying things and men saying, like, just repeating what that has happened to me in so many meetings. I know maybe it's a cliche point, but
yeah, no, that's a thing for sure. And then people listen to the man. I was just agreeing with you and expanding a little bit. Yeah. Or basically just agreeing with you, right? Like,
But if we were in a meeting and I said it and then you said what you said, you would be the one getting listened
I would probably get credit for the idea or whatever. Yeah, for sure. But yeah.
I don't know if that's worth talking about because I feel like it feels like it's pretty common knowledge. Then again, like, the Barbie movie came out and everybody, like, on the right lost their shit. Yeah. Like, which was crazy because I feel like it was, like, very milquetoast feminism.
Yeah, I mean, it was really not a very strong feminist message to, like, ultimately. I love that. I love that
the movie, but it
fun.
wasn't saying anything, like, new and revolutionary.
No, and even what it was saying was basically just kind of liberal feminism. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
It is maybe something we would end up talking about is, like, how frustrating it is to exist in a society where, like, we've thought about this kind of stuff and come to the conclusions that a lot of people have if they think about this stuff. And then you go out and talk to people who haven't thought about it, and it's like, guys, we're
so far past
covered
this.
that like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
How are you still at this point?
Catch up.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah, because there's so much more work to do.
Yeah.
And then when people are stuck on these like antiquated ideas, it's like
we can't even get to the point where we actually have progressed to.
Yeah.
Without kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Right. And trying to regress things in the worst case, Ben Shapiro types and worse people than him even.
Yeah, I mean, because how do you fix a problem when you have an army of people who aren't even willing to like cede to the like facts that are presented to them?
Yeah, the basic issues.
They won't even admit that there's a wage gap.
Right. And like there's some nuance to the wage gap, like, that there's always nuance, right? That kind of lets people of bad faith kind of chip away at real stuff. But ultimately it's just like, come on, like, can we not get to a certain point and just like move on from there? Do we have to always be fighting the old battles just to get back to where we started from,
I mean, clearly not, because we're going backwards,
yeah.
At least in this country, probably in others as well, but very blatantly in this country.
Yeah, well, obviously the Roe v. Wade stuff.
Yeah, which is crazy to me because, like, was it Benjamin Franklin that wrote a pamphlet on abortion? At-home abortions back? Like, so we're going backwards, like, past even, like, what was accepted by the founding fathers.
Right.
Like, these people are supposed to be originalists.
Yeah, no, like, the whole abortion debate, if you want to call it that, was ginned up in the, like, around the 70s. Right? Yeah. 60s, 70s, to be a wedge issue.
Because abortion is healthcare, and it's always been accepted as healthcare. It had always been accepted as healthcare until that happened.
Right, and people didn't think that life started. Nobody thought life started at conception. Until then, until pretty recently, right?
Because we don't even know, like, we can't even pinpoint conception. You're technically pregnant before you're pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Bible, it's like the quickening which is when you can feel the baby start moving.
Yeah,
right? When you're considered a baby.
Right, which makes sense because, like, before modern medicine, you wouldn't know.
Right.
Like you're going to be like, it takes a while before you know you're pregnant unless you have the benefit of very sensitive tests that you can go and take in the privacy of your home, which is not always a thing. Yeah,
I mean, certainly you could be quite a bit more pregnant than a lot of states let you be.
Right.
And get an abortion at this point or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. I guess we said we didn't want to make a podcast for ladies that was actually aimed at ladies, but I think we sort of came back around to...
But I like
this is
the tragedy of this podcast is that every once in a while we come up with an idea where I'm like, oh, actually, I feel really like passionate about this one. And maybe we're going to make it. Maybe this is a feminist podcast now, but like, I find it really cathartic to talk about this stuff. Like, I could see doing a podcast like that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. Although I think that it's sort of an illusory tragedy of this podcast because we are talking about it. Right. We're talking, and this always was a feminist podcast, right? Last week when we talked about horror movies, because I was re-listening to it, or was it last week or the week before, whatever it was, we talked about how I don't tend to get like scared from horror movies and have it last beyond the movie. And you talked about like how that might be something to do with how women just tend to have a, more of a higher baseline fear of their bodily autonomy being taken away from them,
right,
from strangers lurking outside their house or whatever, that men don't tend to have to deal with, right? And that,
live with a baseline fear every day.
yeah. And like, that's a thing that we just kind of brought up in line with the rest of the stuff we were talking about. And so this podcast is about that sometimes too, anyway, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I think like what's kind of fun about this podcast is we might not actually be able to sustain a podcast that's specifically this podcast for ladies that we're talking about.
Right.
Over a lot of episodes, but we could sustain it over some episodes.
We can drop little nuggets of leftist wisdom and critiques sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, and I think like at least the way that my kind of ADHD brain is, I do a lot better jumping to little different... This is why we're doing this podcast, right? Why do we do it this way?
Yeah.
Why this is what we landed on is what works. Is like, I have a lot of things that I could hypothetically talk about, but there could be hard to sustain. It's much easier to jump back and forth between little nuggets of stuff.
We don't have to stay focused on one specific thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
So I think that's our podcast for ladies.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to time here, probably.
Yeah. I think we've got probably not too long before Rory wakes up and interrupts us.
Yep. Okay. So before that happens,
so follow us on social media. You can find all of the links on our website, which is coolpodcast.website. The biggest thing you could do to help us out would be to send us ideas, because we have a lot of stupid ideas, but we find it a lot more fun to talk about other people's stupid ideas. So please send us your dumb ideas. Easiest way is to email us at coolpodcast.website. But you can certainly also message us through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, whatever. So, yeah. Or even just leave a comment somewhere. Leave a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We will definitely use any and all ideas submitted, and we will give you a shout out on the podcast.
Every week I do try to add a question that relates to this episode, and sometimes polls on the Spotify. So if you do listen on Spotify, you can engage that way.
Oh yeah, didn't you get a couple answers for last week's?
Yes.
Did you want to read those?
I can read them real quick.
Some listener feedback?
Yeah, we could do a quick listener feedback thing. Okay, these are from actually a couple weeks ago. These are for the Halloween Oops All Jump Scares episode, and the question was, what would you name a 12-foot tall skeleton? And because we named ours Skeletal Walter.
Yes.
And Sarah says Herbert.
Okay.
And Lori says Scaly Belly.
Scaly Belly. None of those or ours is as good as Pelvis Costello, though. I mean, I think Pelvis Costello is still the winner.
Pelvis Costello is still pretty good. Yeah. So, Ginger.
Yeah?
You know how we were having trouble coming up with an idea for the outro for our podcast?
Yeah?
What if the outro of the podcast is us trying to come up with the outro of the podcast?
Oh my God. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do this every week?
I think we're going to try. We're going to try it.
Okay, so what are we pitching each other outro ideas?
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea is we need an outro that's like interesting for people to be, wanting to stick around till the end, right? Okay.
What if we both give our favorite insult at the end of every podcast?
Okay, I was thinking who can make the loudest fart noise?
I like mine better.
Or the longest fart noise, maybe?
Just out of our butt on command?
No. With pretend fart noise over their mouth.
Okay. Well, I don't know. You just said make the longest fart noise.
You're right. Another idea I had was we just type some stuff into autosuggest on our phone and say what it says. Like your
robot poetry?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Robot poetry is an account on Twitter. If you don't know, you should go follow it.
Yeah, I post weird stuff that I managed to make my phone come up with via autosuggest, basically.
What if we insult the listeners at the end of every podcast? Come up with a good insult for the listeners as our outro. See you next week, fuck faces.
Fuck faces is what you got? That's pretty creative. How about dog turd sniffers or something?
See you next week, douche nozzles.
I feel like that's very 2015 or something.
See you next week, douche canoes.
That's even more so.
Are you saying I'm dated?
I'm saying that's a little. You posted cringe, bro. So is this what we're going with? We're gonna.
I don't know. That's my pitch. I was just going for it.
We're trying to come up with an insult that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good outro.
I guess that's.
And on a real positive note.
That's what we're doing this week, and next week maybe we'll do fart noises.
All right.
See you later, turd lickers.
See you next week, waffle twats.
That's different than twat waffles.
Twat waffles is better. Yeah, sorry. See you next week, twat waffles.
That's very douche canoe. There's a whole
God damn it.
Somebody wrote a paper, I think, about how you can put together any regular noun and insulting word together. I feel like I read a paper or something on the internet about this.
See, the idea was to insult the audience, not insult me for my insults.
I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying we could do better.
You're saying I could do better.
Well, I have not done better so far, so we both could do better.
Okay. How
about I don't know, bitch nugget?
Bitch nugget is pretty good. How is that better than twat waffle?
I don't know. It
though?
Seems different to me, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the same, and I'm just as cringe.
See you next week, shit lizards.
Okay. See you next week, shit lizards and bitch nuggets. And that's the end of the podcast.
Bye.
Bye. What was that podcast about? I'm trying to figure it out. Didn't catch what that was about.